All right. I just want to welcome everyone today, especially Angela. Thanks for being here. It's great to be with people that have done program with Brain Sprints and they're seeing some progress. So I just want to first ask you if you want to give a little introduction about what you're dealing with and what brought you to Brain Sprints.
Yes, thank you for having me. My name is Angela. I have two children on program, teenagers, 13-year-old and a soon to be 15-year-old. Um, we found brain sprints when our pediatrician had noticed some of our son's primitive reflexes had not fully integrated, which he recommended an occupational therapist. And through, I guess, the grace of God, I talked to somebody who told me about brain sprints. And I felt like it addressed primitive reflexes plus more to address educational challenges as well as just, everyday life challenges.
So that's very interesting. Different people come to Brain Sprints through different channels and different needs. So you said you had two on program. Um, was that your initial need, or did you just decide to go with both of them after you found out more about it?
Yeah, initially we were just planning, excuse me, to enroll my son due to the primitive reflexes. But right before our initial evaluation, my daughter came to me expressing feelings of anxiety. And so I called Brain Sprints and I said, do you have a space for a second child to evaluate while we were, going anyway? And the results showed that, she would benefit as well from the activities. So
Okay.
both of
And I
them.
think that's interesting because I see that often. I used to talk at homeschool book fairs often, and the parents would come with one child in mind, and they would leave going, "Oh, that's something that the other child is dealing with." So, it is, in my opinion, the most amazing thing about neurodevelopment is it's very broad in its scope. It really looks at the foundation in all the different areas, whether it's auditory or visual or tactile, the tactile system, handedness, language, and mobility. So all of that works together to make really release the full potential of the child. So that's interesting. And I think the thing that you were talking about was a screening. So we have some screenings we can do by Zoom or in person in several of our locations. And that's just kind of a snapshot of some key areas of neurodevelopment. It's not a full evaluation, which we also have available, but oftentimes, just a quick look through a screening can reveal a lot of those initial challenges. So, do you want to share anything about what was found in the screening that maybe surprised you or was something that uh, you found kind of confirming with your situation?
Yes, our son was found to have mixed ear dominance. That did not surprise me. He had had many ear infections as a young child, as a baby. It felt like we went through months and months of ear infections, and then tubes, and the whole thing, antibiotics. So that did not surprise me, I guess, too much. My daughter was found to have mixed eye dominance. And that's something I never would have considered or really thought to, you know, check into and she struggles with math and science. And I've learned that can be affected by that.
Yes, long-term memory, especially with dominance, is affected. And if it's ear, then it's auditory long-term memory. If it's the eye, it's the visual long-term memory. So very interesting. And So I got an email from you, I believe, that was talking about what the doctor had found after you'd been on program for a while. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, our pediatrician at our son's yearly well check, after, like, as you said, after we had been on program for probably about 8 or 9 months, he noted that his primitive reflexes had integrated and that his adrenals, I guess, were, what did he say, returned back to a more normal state.
Mm, that's huge. When your adrenals aren't working well, then it can affect everything. So uh, the you mentioned some anxiety with your daughter. Have you noticed any changes in that area?
Um, Not a whole lot yet. She still fluctuates, but we're also not sure about, hormone levels at this time in her life. And okay, I don't know if you want to leave this part in there or not, but she hasn't been quite as compliant with all of the activities. So that I feel like that makes a difference.
Yes, when you have a child that is, like a teenager, thinks that they know everything, and they think, oh, well, I don't need this particular thing, and they don't do it, then obviously there's not going to be benefit from that. With your son, I think you shared about the his grandparents were noticing, oftentimes we get into this, we deal with things, and then when they're not there anymore, we just don't tend to notice those because that's our new normal. And when people have, it's been a long time since they've seen them, then they tend to bring up things that are very different from their view. So what was happening with grandparents?
So he stayed the weekend with the grandparents while the rest of us were at a retreat. And this is my parents. And after that weekend, my mom told me, she said, yeah, he had a moment or two when he actually said he had a situation that was reaching a high emotional situation, and he said to her, my old brain would have handled this situation this way, but my new brain is handling it this way. So I'm going to go with the way the new brain wants to handle it, which I thought was so interesting. That's nothing I had ever heard. And of course, him being in a different environment, they see and hear a different perspective than I do.
Yeah, so some more emotional control and even aware that what he had been doing was making a change for his
Mhm.
brain. That is very wonderful. So is there, we were talking in our support, and one thing that you might let everybody know, what kind of support do you feel like you have gotten from the brain sprints and being on the program?
The uh, is it biweekly or twice a
By-
month? Yeah, phone Zoom calls have been super helpful. It's always helpful to hear others' experiences, and we've talked about how you can feel like you're alone trying to implement these activities, and with teenagers, it's a challenge. Like you said, they think they know better, and to them it's embarrassing, even though nobody else sees it, nobody else knows. But it's almost inevitably on almost every one of those calls, I've learned something new and helpful. And just hearing others' experiences or questions, and then it kind of gives you encouragement and refreshment to keep on going and stay the course.
That's great to know. And did you feel like the training for the activities to do the activities, was that adequate? Did you feel well prepared after watching the videos of the activities you were going to do?
Yes, I think for the most part, yes. And then there were maybe only a couple that I had some just really little questions, which then I was able to ask during the monthly calls. So yeah, I feel like it's super helpful to have like handouts that explain it, and things I could save to go back and look at it, and then like links to any additional like uh, things we needed to get maybe to add to it.
Great, great. And then we do also have email support that's daily or many times a day if you need it. Have you ever taken advantage of that?
I have. I know email, Bobby has been super helpful, which ended up mostly being logistics, I believe. And then I think Michelle is available, and I probably haven't utilized that as much as I could. So I may use that some more, but it's definitely been helpful, to have available and to know that I can reach out, if I'm not sure how something's supposed to go, or if I'm, having, I don't know, challenge or questions.
Great, great. Yeah, we really try to make as much available as needed. Some people need more support. Some people don't need as much support. And I agree with you. Those bi-monthly calls that we get on, everybody is so encouraging. They share their experiences, which builds your confidence. You know, you're kind of out there on your own doing the activities, and it's really, you can't see those new pathways in the brain being built. You just have to trust, right? So you're kind of going by faith, and it does. I've been really excited about the way those meetings have gone, and if you're not able to get to that meeting, then they're recorded for others to watch in a private Facebook group, so you can always have that kind of encouragement as well.
Mhm.
So I know that as you go along, sometimes there's subtle changes in your children that you just kind of immediately get used to because it's not that irritant that was there before. So that new normal sets in, and you unless you really think back, oh, this was happening and that's not happening anymore, then it's sometimes hard to miss, easy to miss those things. So, do you have any of those things that have kind of changed in their daily life?
Yes, absolutely. One that I noticed probably even after just 2 weeks on the program, um, his voice volume prior to getting onto the program had been fairly loud most all of the time. And it had just become kind of part of the norm to always say, okay, lower your volume. Okay, let's bring down our volume. Like felt like I was constantly saying it. And I think it had been like after 2 weeks on the program, all of a sudden I just stopped and I thought, I'm not saying that anymore. Like it's sounding more normal. And I'm not even like shushing or asking to lower volume, and it just really struck me how quickly, and how again that was just now the new normal, and I had barely noticed it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was too. Another thing I've noticed, I guess, more lately is that, we still have some high emotion times and some, struggles, him feeling overwhelmed. But I've noticed that when we do have those times, that he's a lot quicker to, I think, to calm down and then to apologize soon afterwards. He'll come to me and say, Mom, I'm really sorry. that I acted that way. I didn't really mean that, will you forgive me? And I just feel like that's a skill and a definite benefit. So it's not like all of the emotions completely go away, but
Mhm.
he's, self-regulating, I guess, a little quicker afterwards, and then, we can talk about it.
That does make life easier, doesn't it? That's really good. Anything else that you've noticed?
Um, I it you may he and his sister appear to be getting along a little bit better with each other, though they would probably never admit that. And they'll have, I guess, more often times of just, hanging out and talking, nicer, more cordially, just kind of enjoying the time together. As we homeschool, they're home together a lot. So that's definitely a benefit. And again, I would attribute it to brain sprints. They may disagree, but they actually, each of them have told me at separate times, they said, Mom, I hope you're around when we have kids, because I want to like work with my babies and teach them all of this stuff that you know about the brain, so that, we can start out from the beginning with all of this, and then they won't have to do it as teenagers.
Well, that is a very perceptive comment because that is true. We even have programs called Early Learning Foundation that start with 3 and 4-year-olds and build this neurodevelopment into their program. It can be an after school or as part of the homeschool. And it works on all the different areas, their movement, their processing. And that's one thing. I just did a live recently about auditory processing and how important it is. And when their processing is one of the things you're definitely working on with them. And when that goes up, then they can see the big picture better. They can say, oh, maybe that's not worth it to be upset with my sibling over that. So I really think that is one of the things that helps. So congratulations on that, because that certainly makes life easier and better. So that's wonderful. Angela, thank you so much for being with us. I just wondered if there's anything that you want to say to someone that's maybe considering doing something in the neurodevelopmental field, like with brain sprints. Is there anything that you'd like them to know from your perspective?
I would say just, contact Brain Sprints for an initial phone call for a screening, and, see what the results are, and then go from there. I think that in many years that I had researched, assistance for my son, I had never learned anything about this, and I just think it's an incredible design to attend to the neurodevelopmental pathways, and to help, restructure I guess, to open up the pathways and help them to work as God has intended.
Great. Well, thank you again for being here, and we'll see you on the next Zoom.
Okay, thank you.